Welcome everyone. Today is February the 21st, 2023, and we are promptly here at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, and 4 p.m. I know it says GTM, but I'm thinking that means Greenwich Mean Time, not team, whatever. We're on the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community call. Thank you for everyone for joining today. And let me get that away from there. And why does that do it? It's very tough not to give me that. Anyway, today's agenda is we're going to provide, I'm going to be really brief and thorough on this. And so I'm going to give you the latest updates on the news on the Microsoft Graph 365 platform, latest news on the Microsoft 365 blogs. Vesa is going to do the group time picture in together mode. And then we're going to have the stars of the show, who's Dan Wahlin, who's going to be talking about integrate in Azure Communication Services, ACS, calling into a React app. And then we have Garry Trinder, who's going to be talking about the Teams Toolkit Learn Path. And that's all about getting started building apps for Microsoft Teams using a Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. All the great stuff there. Pardon me, I'm coming off a little bit of a sickness. So one of the things that we love and we encourage people to do is, this is all about learning, all about community. And if you're a visual learner like myself, we have plenty of resources for you. If you're a person that like to see things listed out in front of you, we have that as well. We have the videos at ak.ms community/videos. And we also have a LinkedIn discussion forum as well, where we have at ak.ms community/li. This is all about community, so very open source. We have a lot of materials on GitHub. Whether it's PNP, Office Dev, SharePoint, or my favorite, Microsoft Graph. We have tons of things in the sample gallery as a way to get started in case sometimes people feel a little bit intimidated by an empty IDE. We have a great way of getting you started by providing you samples, whether it's on Teams, SharePoint Framework, Power Platform, and so on and so forth. If these are too many things to remember, don't worry about it. We've got you covered. Just go to ak.ms /community. I believe it's /community, but we have /home here as well too. So one more to just direct you there. As you're here today on a Tuesday, we're doing a call. However, we have calls that are done weekly, we have calls that are done monthly, and we have calls that are done bi-weekly. You can find those here on the links before. Again, if these links are to remember, just go to ak.ms /community/calls. Agendas for these calls are published on social media and also at ak.ms community/meetup. So you can find out what's going to be there ahead of time, plan your day, plan your week ahead of time so you can get the content that is relevant for you. As this is all about community, and in a call like this, it's typically Microsoft presenters, whether it's the PMs, or the engineers coming on to speak to you. However, we all grow through the community, and as a matter of fact, a great way to get started in the community is by presenting, whether it's to your local group or in a forum like this. So we encourage you to request to present at the ak.ms link that you see there, /community/request/demo. And, let us know, how, we have a great idea in terms of what we think our scenarios are. However, it is not uncommon for people to take our, the product and go left, go right, and twist and turn and make it into something else that totally adds value. And we would love to see that we take that back to our leadership. I know I do, and write great customer stories about it. So, please request a demo. Let us see what you're building out there in the field, in the wild. Now, you may say, okay, I'd love to do that. How do I do that? So, we want to make sure that you have the infrastructure in order to do that. So, as long as you maintain and build in a developer environment, we provide you a free E5 tenant for you to do that at ak.ms/m365/dev program. And again, if there's an intimidation factor around having a blank IDE or you don't know where to start, ak.ms/m365/dev/learn has tons of samples that are free, 73 Learn modules available for you right there for you to go with. Are you raising your hand, Tom? Todd, you say something to me? Oh, okay, all right. Yeah. So We do have. Let's say that you're on your daily walks. We encourage total sense of wellness here, and you want to hear something. You don't want to hear the birds chirping, and you don't want to hear the car zooming by. We have 3 podcasts here for you. We have the M365 Dev podcast, and in the latest episode, you can listen to Jeremy Thick and Aisha Bass talk to Louis Baudon-Allaire, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, about ShareGate and their latest governance SaaS offerings. You can also hear on the PMP Weekly podcast hosted by Waldeck and Vesa, episode 198. They spoke with Mustafa Torman from Devo Team and Cloud. It's a great episode. I think it was only published like around 6 or 7 hours ago. I was listening to a little bit of it this morning. And also the debut of the episode 1 of the Power Platform Connection. And basically there, Hugo Bernier and David Warner spoke with MVP Asher McFarland, and that was a great episode. I did listen to that this morning in this full episode entirety. Again, I think in the last episode we had David mentioning that we're so close to 1,500 samples. This week, I checked, we're up by 10. We're at 1,495 samples, and this is a testament to the community and the work that you guys are doing. So thank you very much for that. At ak.ms/community samples, you can get access to all of these 1,495 samples across various different product lines. Again, a great way to start, a great way for you to build on top of the successes of others that are already there. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to David for talk about our Sharing is Caring initiative.
Awesome. Thank you, Fabian. Yeah, and so we are 5 away from 1,500, everybody. How are you going to get there? We're going to help you get there. It's you that provide those samples to us, and we want to empower you to do that. Sharing is Caring is a program that does just that. What does it do? It provides hands-on guidance, and that means that we get together live in Teams meetings, showing you and working together on how to accomplish things like submitting a pull request, understanding what a pull request is. Would you like to take that pull request and those samples you submit, show them off on a call? We're going to help you there too. These are safe space calls. Do not record. They are not saved in any way, shape, or form, so it's a safe space to ask any and all questions. Don't hesitate to sign up. We've got more coming up this month and next month. In fact, we've got one later this week for Power Platform Samples Contributor. Check it out at ak.ms/sharing is caring. Fabian, back to you.
Thank you, David. And just dovetailing off the Sharing is Caring and where to start, we're going to briefly go through a couple of events that we have going on. One that actually I'll be on the 15th along with 2 MVPs. One, I like to consider myself, well, I'm not there anymore, but I was a legacy MVP, meaning that I was back there from the very beginning, from when Todd Clint started off as well maybe 2 years after Todd Clint. And we also have a new MVP that actually started, just got minted or knighted or whatever you want to call it in this February. So I'll be there on the last day, so join me on that. However, this is from Waldeck and Aisha, the Microsoft Graph and .NET, and it's all about a hackathon where you can kickstart your learning by building apps in Microsoft Graph based on common scenarios and with a chance to win exciting prizes and meet with Microsoft Graph product leaders, cloud advocates, and MVPs and student ambassadors. So hope to see you there starting March 1 through March 15th. Next, if it's May the 4th be with you, it is the time for the Microsoft 365 conference, May the 2nd through 4th at MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Hear from the various teams of Viva, Teams, SharePoint, and the Power Platform, and get to see Jeff T. per keynote as well. And if you just so happen to be in Dusseldorf, Germany, around the 24th to the 26th of May 2023, you can see Vesa and or myself, or both, depending on how you want to spend your day. Along with be a part of the 2,500 attendees, the sponsors, the Microsoft speakers, MVPs, and RDs at the European Collaboration Summit 2023, again in Dusseldorf, Germany. And if you're stateside, and throughout the course of the year, whether it's in DC in June, Seattle in August, and Chicago in October, the 365 EduCon conference is there. If you're in the DC area, please let me know. Todd, please let me know, because I live here in the DC metro area. And I'm happy to to come and meet with you and share a pint or two. If you're in Dublin, between the 20th and 22nd of June 2023, there is the European Power Platform Conference. It's a great conference, and the Power Platform is everywhere today. A great way for your end users and for your business analysts and folks to really get their hands dirty and hands into building great solutions with low code, no code. And if you look at ak.ms/community days, you can get a full detail of all of these local community events that are here. Too much to name, but if you go to that URL at the very top, it is available for you. So real quickly, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the news updates before we kick it to the teams. In the M365 dev blog, we have Waldeck and Aicha. Again, this is around the March 1 through 15 hackathon. We have from Sanjay at Ignite 2022, they announced the preview of the Teams app on Android app. Now it's GA'd. So if you're an Android user, go ahead and grab it. From David Shin, we have bigger CRM and AI context. So basically communicate more effectively with AI generated emails and streamline customer discovery by understanding stuff with the people live card. Further down in terms of the SP blog, we have Bill Baer talking about the release of the SharePoint Workflow Manager for the SharePoint server. And we also have Paul Diamond talking about using playlists to create videos or audios, in M365. And finally, we have Kathy Dew and our part 2 of building beautiful sites with purpose. So all of these here are available for you to go ahead and get get your learning on. I'm going to kick it over to Wajid, I believe, who's going to be talking about our Teams platform updates. Wajid?
Thanks. Hello, everyone. So we have 2 updates to cover. So first, we have released docs on growth of your apps. The document provides the guidelines about how should you strategize and execute growth for your app, what decisions you need to make, what levers you can pull, what programs and the resources and the guidance you can utilize. It also includes some proven best practices from team that crafted the Teams platform and the commercial marketplace itself to make your app successful. Please take a look. And second, support apps for anonymous users. So anonymous users don't have Azure Active Directory identity and aren't federated with it. The anonymous user participants are like external users, but their identity isn't shown in the meeting. You can build bots, messaging extension, cards, and a task module in your app to engage with anonymous meeting participant. For anonymous users to interact with the app in Teams meeting, ensure you update your manifest to version 1.116 and set the support anonymous guest user property in manifest to true. You also need to enable the anonymous user app abstraction in the Teams admin center. So by default, it's enabled, but there's a control to disable that as well. In tabs, you can use the JavaScript SDK to check the user.license type to understand whether the current user is anonymous or not. And for bots, you can use the team member user role property to do the same. We have also updated the sample to show anonymous user support, which I published at aka.ms/team samples repo. So this is what we had for today. Like if you have any feedback or suggestion, please post it on aka.ms/teams platform feedback. The link is available in footer. And also you could configure to RSS feed to get the regular platform updates. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Wajid. Thank you for those updates. So at this point in time is when we do our optional picture time. And I'm going to basically kick that over to Vesa. I'm going to stop presenting here. Oh, you already kicked me out, didn't you?
No, I didn't. No,
You didn't? Okay, all right, there you go.
No. I'm 1 second. Let's see. This is so hard with the one screen. Okay, cool. Now this is looking good. Let's wait for a while. Let's wait a while. This is productivity is really significantly less when you're not with 4 screens or 3 screens. Oh, I can see you guys hugging upstairs on the up row. Let's wait for a few more seconds and do some hand waving. I'm already recording. We still have a few seats in the room. Few more. I guess that's maxing out. Let's do some hand waving, everybody. Thank you for joining once again. Awesome to have you on the call, and we'll grab a GIF animation out of this. Thanks everybody for joining. Excellent, brilliant stuff. Excellent.
All right, thank you so much,
Fabian.
Thank you very much. So right now we're going to jump into the real stars of the show. We're going to first start off with Don Wahlin, who's going to be talking about integrated Azure Communication Services, ACS, into the React apps. Dan, over to you.
So it's good to be back with you. For those that were here the last 2 weeks, this is actually the 3rd week in a row that Base hasn't kicked me out yet. Maybe this will be the final one, but I'm here to talk with you again about integrated services across the Microsoft Cloud. and specifically how we can enhance user collaboration. And what we've been doing is building up a series that we basically take 15 minutes and talk about specific topics. And then today we're going to focus more on the front end side. So we'll get to that in just a moment. So for those that don't know me, my name is Dan Wahlin. I'm a cloud advocate at Microsoft. And what I'm going to be showing you, I've also been working with my colleague, Aicha Bosch. Aicha will actually be joining us next week to talk about the kind of next 15-minute chunk of what we're going to cover here. So what we've done is 2 weeks ago, I guess, we introduced audio video calling and how that could be used to call into a Teams meeting, actually. And then last week, I showed how we could set up an ACS resource, some of the things you can do there, such as getting a token and user identity. If you weren't here, don't worry. I'm going to review that again today. But today is finally, let's see some code, Dan, because the last 2 sessions were all about showing the demo, talking about the technologies involved and those type of things. But today we're actually going to jump into the front end. Now I'm going to be covering React, but the technology we're going to be using with ACS, Azure Communication Services, is actually web components. So it runs anywhere the web runs. Now next week, Aicha is going to be joining us to talk about how we can dynamically create the Teams meeting side of this. And so she'll be talking about Azure Functions with Microsoft Graph. And then she'll also be talking about how we can use Azure Functions to dynamically do some of the things I'm going to show you today. I'm actually going to hard code them today. And then later she'll show you how we can make this dynamic. And then I'll be back to wrap things up in a few weeks from now. And we're going to talk about some deployment options. And so we have a lot of good stuff, kind of an end-to-end view of this approach here. All right, so let's talk about the front end side and how you would actually get started doing this. So first off, for those that haven't seen this, here's kind of what we're talking about. We have a customer app, and let's say the customer goes here and they would like to talk to a customer service agent or someone that's going to help them, put together IKEA furniture, who knows. So the customer service agent is using Teams, we're going to assume. They can then join a meeting that would be dynamically set up. And as they do that, here's Aicha, who will be here with us next week. And now she can admit the guest, which is the customer, from the lobby, and give the video a sec. It'll sync up here. But there's mini-me on camera talking to Aicha. And now you can see kind of from the customer viewpoint what we would see. Now, lots of good use cases for this. I shared a story, I think it was last week, actually. I had some air conditioning folks to fix a problem at our house. And they were using a tablet for all their app stuff. But then when they would call back to headquarters for parts and things like that, they would use the phone. And that's like perfect use case. I mean, they may not even need the video, but also if they do need the video, they could actually show the AC unit and talk to headquarters while they're in the actual app where they have to input the information instead of doing this. So lots of use cases here, but I'll let you kind of come up with those. What we're going to talk about, though, is how we can integrate this into the front end side. And again, I'm going to focus on React, but this can run anywhere the web runs. So let me first kind of walk you through what are the major Lego blocks, if you will. I'm a big fan of Lego blocks. My kids used to do we still have a bunch of Star Wars sets set up, actually. I don't know when those are going to come down. Maybe my wife's saving them for the grandkids someday. I don't know. But anyway, the first thing we're going to have to do is install some packages. All right, pretty normal. We have a front end app. We're going to be using TypeScript in this case. So you'll notice there's this Azure Communication Common and Azure Communication React. All right, and that's actually what we're going to be using to do this. Now, I'm going to talk through these symbols, we call them. The main one that does the audio video calling capability is right here. It's called Call Composite. And we'll talk about that in just a moment, actually. So that's kind of step one. Pretty normal. Just get the stuff we need. There's the Lego blocks. Now we need to put the Lego blocks together to actually do something. So one of the first things we have to do is ACS requires us to have a token and a user identity. You're going to see both those here. Now, first off, you'll notice that we have this use memo. Now, if you're not familiar with this, this does what's called memoization, kind of a caching technique, to ensure that we only create this Azure Communication Token credential right when the app loads, just one time. And then from there, the token is only set once. Therefore, we just get one Azure Communication Token credential. If you don't do that, you can get weird results. I might have gone through that myself and done it the wrong way the first time. So what this will do, though, is it returns a credential. So that's kind of step one. We need to convert this token into a credential that we can actually use in ACS. All right. Now, the next thing we need is think about a customer calling into a customer service agent. We probably need the name for the customer, or at least guest, which is what we're going to do. We probably need their user identity, which we're going to talk about. We probably need the Teams URL. If we're going to call into a Teams meeting, we need some way to know how to get into that meeting. And then we probably need the token as well. So what we're going to do for that is create what's called some call adapter args. Now, again, we're going to do some memoization here, but all we're going to do is say, all right, once we have a user ID, a credential, a display name, and the Teams meeting link available, because some of this is going to be retrieved asynchronously, then we're going to return this object literal. Just a basic JavaScript object, and notice it has the user ID, the display name, the credential, and then the locator, notice that is the Teams meeting link. All right, and this is one of those things you do it once, and then from then on, if you had different apps that needed it, you could either use like Copilot, which is my preference. If you haven't tried Copilot with VS Code, it's amazing. But normally this is something, I mean, you do it once and you could reuse it in many places across apps if you needed to. So we now have the token credential. We've put that credential into an object that also has some info about the user. Now we need to package all this up into something that we can feed into the UI part. And so what they provide, and they being the ACS team, is this use Azure Communication Call Adapter. This is a custom React hook. It's basically a custom function that you feed it this call adapter args. It returns this call adapter object, and then we're going to use that for, now we can make the audio video call. We know about the user, we know about the token, we know about the Teams meeting URL, like we have everything we need. And this is the bulk of the code right here. It's not that much, actually. Now, the last and probably most important piece is we want the UI. Well, that's done through something called a call composite. And this is basically a set of web components that if you think about putting together a video call, what would you need? Well, you need a way to start the call. So you need a button. You need a way to pick the camera, the mic, things like that, if assuming it's audio video. All right. So that'd be some drop downs probably. You need something to render the video. All right, so there's the video, and then you probably have a toolbar because you want to be able to hang up. You might want to share your screen. All those things we're used to in Teams, you can actually do. And this call composite, literally all it is a wrapper around these web components. All right, so like streaming the video, it wraps that. The button to start the call, it has that as well. So think of it as kind of like you're putting all the Lego blocks together. Call composite is, you know, the AT-AT from Star Wars, if you're not familiar with that. And now we can use that to render the UI. Okay. Now, I wanted to go through that first because I'm a big fan of let's kind of get people thinking, and then we'll jump into the code and kind of review this and how it's actually used. So with that, let me jump on over. And what I have here is a single React file. And you're going to notice we have all those imports right there, right at the top. All right, so there's the call composite. There's how we create the token credential. There's a type we're going to use, and then some other helper functions here as well. So moving on down, if you break this down kind of into steps, the first steps are we need an ACS user identity and token, and we need a Teams meeting link. Now, you might notice I have hard-coded those. And the reason is because Aicha, starting next week, is going to show how we can actually go in and dynamically get, so next week she'll cover this part, dynamically getting the Teams meeting URL with Microsoft Graph. And then the following week will be about how to dynamically get the user identity and the token from ACS. We're going to be using Azure Functions for all that. Okay, so in this case, I've hard-coded it, but you might wonder if you're new to this, like, where did I get these things? Well, if I come back over to the Azure portal, I've already created just a phenomenal name here, Test Wahlin. This is my ACS resource for this demo. And this literally, I covered it last week, but it literally, you're looking at like 30 to 60 seconds to set this up. Super easy. Just go up to the search, type Azure Communication or just Communication, and then pick it and create it. Done. Now, for development purposes, and this is something that for those that have seen this last week, I'll show it again. But those that didn't, I'm going to click right here, voice and video calling, and what this will generate is a user identity and a token. Now, I've already done that. They're good for 24 hours. And so mine are good, and I'm not going to tempt fate here by creating another one. I should be able to do that, by the way, but I'm not going to. But that's where I got them. It writes them out. I copied and pasted them back into right here. And that's it. Now, they're only for development purposes. You would never use this for production. You would never hard code this for production. That's a given. Okay, so moving on down, now that we have that, what about the Teams link? Well, that's just normal. On that, I set up a meeting here. I have a Microsoft 365 developer tenant. Aicha, I actually added to that tenant. This is a fake version of Aicha. And Aicha can now join. And when we click join, we can go into here, but we can also go into the meeting and get the link right there. You've all seen that with Teams. And that's all I did for that piece. Okay. So moving on down, the rest of this is what we just covered. I'm going to take that token, okay, which is right here, this guy. I'm going to convert that into an ACS credential. We're then going to create our call adapter args. And this is, again, just a matter of making an object that has something ACS expects. This is in the docs, so you wouldn't even need to memorize this. But I'm going to create a user identity from the user ID. They have a little helper function to help with that. The display name, I hard-coded in this case to guest. But if we had a logged in user, obviously we could get that logged in user's name. Credential, we've already seen that. That's the token. And then the locator, there's the Teams meeting. Now, I do want to point out that you don't have to call into Teams if you haven't heard this before. ACS can actually call in from a custom app to another custom app that's running ACS. You can even do one-to-many type of calls. Right now, we're doing Teams, but just kind of know that that's not the only way. All right. Now, I also want to point out, when I first did this piece, I didn't actually write it. I'm going to show you real quick. Create an ACS token. Let's say credential, because that's actually what it is, using the token. And this is Copilot. And so I'm just going to tab. And you're going to notice this looks really close. It's slightly different than what I did. They return undefined. I just did return. But that's Copilot in action if you haven't seen it before. It's pretty cool. So anyway, there's an example of that. So the next thing is, once we have our adapter args, we're going to feed those into this custom React hook that ACS provides. If I go back up top, you'll see it right there. It's in Communication React. And now we get to the important part right here, the call composite. Now, I'm going to have links for all this at the end, but one thing I want to point out is ACS has a really nice demo page where you can try this stuff out without writing any code. For those that were here last week, this is something I talked about, but I wanted to show because I know everybody can't make it every week, so I want to show it again. So I'll have a link at the end to get to this, but if I come down to call composite, you'll notice I can join existing call. And if I scroll on down here, they'll actually have some of the stuff you saw, like call adapter. They have some other things as well, but if we go to the very bottom here, here's another example of using the call adapter with the call composite. Now, going back to the code, what we're going to do here is the call adapter, which is this little piece right here. Remember, that has the user ID, the display name, the credential, the Teams link. And if we come on down, we're now going to bind that into this call composite. And the call composite, again, is what renders the UI for the calling. So now it has everything it needs, and we can actually do a call from here. So let's do that. This is a kind of a live version. So let me just refresh this. This is my local React app running. Now, again, I've hard-coded the IDs and the tokens and stuff like that, but we'll learn later how to fix that. Let me do this camera here. Let me turn it on. All right, and now we're actually using, I haven't called yet, obviously, but we're actually using the token and all that stuff. So let me go ahead and start the call, and then we'll wrap up here. We'll imagine that the customer service agent got a notification that a customer has a call. They join the meeting. They admit them from the lobby. And we should be in here in just a sec. There we go. It takes the video just a sec to catch up, but hey, here's from the Logitech camera. And then I didn't share Aicha's, obviously, because I only have so many cameras set up. But if we turned on our mics, we could talk, and we can notice down here, we can switch devices. We can see the people in the call. We can even share screens. All this was done through the call composite. Really cool. So, all right, so let me hang up on that and wrap up here because Garry has some really good stuff and I don't want to eat into his time. So let's go back. So all the links, and I'll paste these in the chat as soon as I get done here, can be found here. The tutorial that walks you through building everything we're talking about throughout these sessions we're doing over 6 weeks. You can actually get that to that tutorial today if you want to try this out, call into Teams or whatever. We also have some other samples, and this keeps growing. And then the library I just showed you where you can demo stuff live. That's the ACS UI library. You can go to this link right here. Again, don't worry about this. I'll paste it in the chat. So with that, let me turn it back over, and I think Garry's up next.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dan. That is an amazing demo. I'm totally looking forward to see what Aicha is going to do next week, take it the next step further. So thanks very much for demoing that for us and walking us through the process. Garry, you are up, sir.
Hi everyone, my name is Garry Trinder. I'm a cloud developer advocate from Microsoft, and today I'm going to introduce you to the new Teams Toolkit Learn Path. Today we're actually just going to cover how to get started building apps using Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. But this is actually going to be a series, so over the next, it says 5 weeks. It's going to be longer than that. We're going to have a break in between. We're going to cover all the modules that are in the new Learn Path, which is called Build and Deploy Apps for Microsoft Teams using Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. So the Learn Path is already available. If you're interested, you want to rush along and get started on that Learn Path, then you can use the aka.ms link. So use aka.ms/learn/Teams Toolkit. That'll take you to the very first module, which we're going to cover today, which is getting started. And then over the next few weeks, we're going to cover building bots next week. Then we're going to build some tabs. 4th week, we're going to look at how the Teams JavaScript library can be used to add extra functionality into your applications. And on the last week, we're actually going to go through how you can deploy and publish your apps using Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. So we're going to go through, I'll cover a lot of the bases, end to end, how to get started, right to having your app deployed, running in Azure and available in your organization catalog. But for this week, we're just going to get started. We're just going to go through the initial steps of how to get ready with the Toolkit, start building your apps. So first of all, let's actually start with asking the question is, what is a Microsoft Teams app? Well, really, if you think of a Teams app as more of a web-based app that just extends the Teams platform. And the app itself is not actually the web part itself. Really, a Teams app is nothing more than a small package that contains what's called an app manifest. And you upload this package into Teams, and that manifest basically tells Teams what capabilities your app has. And that app can have several capabilities, of which I'll go through shortly. But basically, these capabilities are there to be able to extend the native features of Teams and allow you to customize it to whatever your needs of your organization are, or if you're building an application and you're an ISV, where you can bring your application to Microsoft Teams to where people actually work as well. So I mentioned a Teams app is kind of let's say a container of capabilities. Let's take a look at the capabilities that you've actually got on offer to be able to add into your app. One of the capabilities is a bot. So a bot it can be referred to as a chat bot or a conversational bot. And really, it's an app where you can automate simple and repetitive tasks, but you talk to it, you instruct it through text, and it could range from being a really fancy ChatGPT bot where it's picking up on your intent and you're having a real conversation like you would have with a user, or it could be incredibly basic where it's simply almost like a command line tool, but actually running in Teams. And the bot can actually return responses like, as you see on the screen, like adaptive cards with buttons and actions to actually drive processes as well. And a good example of using this might be in kind of like a customer service example, support example, where people just want to ask questions, get answers, and kind of be on their way without actually having to speak to people. The next capability is tabs. So tabs really are Teams-aware web pages that can be embedded in different locations in Teams. Like what we've got on the screen in front of us, we've got a tab embedded in a channel, but it could also be delivered as a personal app, which you can open from the left-hand rail. You can also put these tabs in chats as well. The next capability I'm going to talk about is message extensions. Now, these kind of come in two flavors as well. So the first type of message extension is what we call a search-based message extension. And this extension lives down in the compose box. So when you're typing a message either into a channel or into a chat, you've got a little app there that you can use to maybe speed up accessing information. You probably already use a message extension every single day. I know I do because I use the GIF app. Really nice and easy to just kind of click the button, get a search box, type in for your image, and then embed that straight into your message. Well, it's the same that you could have a custom message extension to potentially query a line of business system to access some information that you can put into a message and increase the communication in your collaborations with your team through those conversations. The second type of message extension is what we call action-based. So this is taking action on a message. So in the example that we've got there, someone just wanting to set a reminder against a particular message that they've seen in a channel. I use this quite a lot. Actually, I use the create a task action a lot. In fact, it's part of my general workflow. And these are things that you can add in your own actions by developing an app that has an action-based message extension. And finally, we've also got meeting extensions as well. So this is the ability to enhance your meetings to help them run maybe more productively, that you can actually show content within a shared stage and help you drive your meetings more efficiently, ask questions, get responses, and so on. Another thing with meeting extensions that's quite interesting is it has different stages. So you have a pre-meeting stage, you have a stage where as the meet is actually running, and a post-meeting stage as well. So you can access this information at different times, and you could show different information and surface different data dependent on whether you're before or after. So those are the kind of the main capabilities that I wanted to talk about as what you could actually put into your Teams app. But the question is, why build for Teams? Why build these extensions? So one reason could simply be to just bring in some common business processes or simplify some business processes using the Teams features. I mentioned with the bots, one way is you could simplify the process of an employee in your organization being able to get help, whether that's HR, whether that's IT, and having a bot there easily accessible in Teams actually could speed up those processes, be able to get information, ask questions, get answers much quicker than maybe without that. Another reason might be, well, actually you want to make Teams a bit more socially interactive, right? It's a social platform. People are collaborating and communicating all the time. Maybe you want to add something in there that is a lot, helps you kind of enforce your company culture, do the right things. You might want to, put in your own custom praise application in there. However you see fit, you've got the ability to maybe improve how people use Teams in your organization. And then finally, it might be that you've already got an existing app, but people are living in Teams, and you might want to bring that app into Teams where they're working. The graphic in front there shows a tab, which is clearly kind of a simple way of bringing an existing app into Teams by literally just surfacing the web page in there, but actually thinking about how you could use some of the other capabilities like message extensions to maybe access the same data that your existing app does, but present it in a different way and show it in a way that it could be used differently to, again, improve communication, increase collaboration in your teams. I just wanted to quickly go through a support scenario, just to kind of bring this more to life as to why you build in Teams and use these capabilities. So I mentioned before about a customer support scenario. So here we've got a solution that actually has a Teams tab and a couple of bots just to help simplify that support process. So first off, we've got a Teams tab that a customer or employee could use to access tickets that they've opened, maybe raise new tickets potentially as well through a web-based interface. But that's again surfaced in Teams, made it easily accessible. We've then got a bot that a support engineer could use maybe to get reminders of critical incidents that have just been raised that need attention, reminders for tickets that maybe have expired, gone overdue, that need some attention as well. That's another use for that bot, and as well as having that Teams tab for customers to raise tickets. Well, actually providing a bot where they can ask these frequently asked questions and get answers without actually having to having to talk to anyone in support. Again, maybe speeds up that process that helps unblock that customer, that employee to be able to carry on with their work. So we've talked quite a lot about bots and the different capabilities and the different scenarios and why you'd want to build apps in Teams. Now we're going to talk about Teams Toolkit. And Teams Toolkit is really the development tooling to be able to build apps really quickly, to get up and running really quickly. Now, Teams Toolkit comes in two different flavors. The first flavor that I'm going to talk about today and in this series is going to be Visual Studio Code. So Teams Toolkit is a Visual Studio Code extension. It's in Visual Studio Code. It supports JavaScript or TypeScript, and it can run on Windows, macOS, and also Linux. The second flavor is it's also available in Visual Studio 2022. So if you're a .NET developer, you use C#, and you're on Windows, then you can use Teams Toolkit features in Visual Studio to build your apps as well. However, today I'm just going to concentrate on Visual Studio Code, and this is what we're going to use as we go through the Learn Path. So just to kind of give you an understanding of the prerequisites of, yes, you might want to use Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. We've got some prerequisites that we need to cover. So first of all, is you need a Microsoft 365 tenant. That 365 tenant needs to be enabled for uploading custom apps as well. I'll cover that shortly as we start to look at the tool itself. Pretty obvious. You're going to need Visual Studio Code. It is Visual Studio Code extension, so that is a given. And it also, you require Node.js to be installed as well. So currently, the version 16 is supported. Version 18 is literally coming. That will be there shortly. But if you're using version 16, you'll be fine for using Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. Okay, so I'm going to jump into a demo. We're going to go through the initial install and setup of your tenant, and then we're going to take a look at the sample gallery and show you how you can get a sample app up and running in your tenant really quickly, and just show how Teams Toolkit can really help you there. So if I get to the right screen, okay, here we go. So we've got Visual Studio open here, and if we want to install Teams Toolkit, we can just simply come to the extensions marketplace, type in Teams Toolkit, and you can see here that it's already been installed on my machine. You just click the install button. That will install the extension. It'll be really quick. It'll only take a few seconds. When that's completed, you've got the Teams Toolkit icon on the left-hand side. So this opens up the initial pane where we've got access to documentation, how-to guides, and then a couple of buttons to either create a new app from scratch using some templates, or actually we've got a samples gallery that we can see some apps that have already been built that we can basically create our own apps from that show some of the capabilities that I've actually talked about earlier. Now, we're not going to go through the create new app. We'll do that later in future modules. But first, we're going to look at view samples. So if we open up the samples gallery, you can see in here we've got a whole number of different available sample apps. So we've got tabs. We've got some bots as well. We've got meeting apps. So there's a whole range in here. So definitely go and check those out. For today, I'm just going to show you how we can create an instance of this Contact Explorer. Now, this Contact Explorer, it's a tab, but it uses the Microsoft Graph toolkit to build up a UI and actually talk to Microsoft Graph in the background. So if I click on this, I get the option to create a new project based on this sample, or I can actually go and view it on GitHub as well. So these are all publicly accessible. Now, I've already done that, so I'm going to switch to another window where I've just click the Create button, and here we have it. So here is what the Teams Toolkit looks like on the left-hand side when we've created a new project. We've got accounts up in the top left-hand side. We've got some environments. We've got some development features down here, deployment, and then links to help and feedback. We've also got README in front of us that tells us a little bit more about this actual sample, what it does, and some of the features which it uses as well. But to get this kind of up and running, first what I need to do is to sign into my Microsoft 365 account. I'm going to sign into that prompt, which should open up a new window, and it's going to be a lottery as to which screen it's going to open up on. I'm just going to check. Oops. Yep, a browser is opening up in the background. It's on another window. It's just running slightly slow at the moment, which is the demo gods are with us there. Okay, yep, so I'm going to sign in using an account. So basically in the background, you can't see this, but it's just a standard Azure AD login. I'm logging into my tenant using an admin account. And there we can see it's popped up there. It's actually signed in, and we can see that this side loading enabled has got a nice green tick against it. Now this means that I'm able to side load custom apps so that I can see them and use them. If this doesn't appear and it says that it's disabled, what you need to do is you need to go into the admin center and look in Manage Apps. And if you go into org-wide app settings, there is a toggle here for custom apps at the tenant level. So make sure that is on as well. And another place to look is under permission policies. In setup policies. Go into global. We have here upload custom apps as well. So just make sure that that's turned on. If you have to turn it on, then just be aware that it can take a little while for that setting to actually become available and to actually persist. So just give it a little while and check back. But if you're using a developer tenant, then actually that should be done for you, and you shouldn't actually have an issue. And we definitely recommend using development tenant for your Teams development anyway. Now that we've signed it into the Microsoft 365 tenant, what we can do is we can actually run this app locally. So we just click the little debug button there against the local environment, and then choose the browser that we want to use. And I'm going to use Edge for this. So this starts Teams Toolkit, and Teams Toolkit basically is doing a lot of work in the background. It's setting up a lot of things for you. It's building up that app manifest file that I talked about before, which describes what the features of the app has when we upload that into Microsoft Teams, but it's doing a whole host of other things in this sample. So this is a tab, so there needs to be a web server set up. It uses SSO, so there's an Azure AD registration being created as well and being configured, and making sure that that's all set up and ready. And this is kind of where the power of Teams Toolkit really comes into its own, when it can handle a lot of these complexities. Oh, and there we go. We have an error. As I was just saying, that the demo gods have not gone well there. Let me just try that again. I'll just check the output. Hopefully there's not an issue in Azure AD at this moment in time.
You're just testing your resilience. Don't worry about it, Garry.
It is. Let's do that right. I wish it tested my resilience earlier today when I went through this. Okay, that one's not happened. Okay, let's just switch back and let's just try a different one. Let's try this one. How are we doing for time? So we've got a few minutes left.
Yeah, 8 minutes to the top of the hour, but I only need maybe a minute or so for the wrap up. So you're good to go.
Okay. So this is already installed. Teams Toolkit should already sign me in as well. So that's already signed in. So let's run this one. So this, now this is running. This will take us slightly longer because it's going to do an npm install, but I'm hoping that's not going to take too long. And that's going to get up and running.
think that's because we did the shark bait from Finding Nemo.
I think at this point, when it's like, what entertaining things can we do when there's an npm install happening?
It needs some type of GIF animation.
It definitely does, yeah. Maybe I need feedback. Maybe we need to provide a little video down in the bottom. Oh, whilst you're installing all the packages, let's.
Or if we really want to be cruel, we can run some ads.
Oh well, yeah.
We can get like a cinematic countdown for you there, Gareth.
Oh, that is, yeah. Is this 24? So whilst that's running, I'll just kind of talk through actually what you can see here is that Toolkit, it's checked the prerequisites as well. So it checked that Node was installed. It checked that connected to my Microsoft 365 tenant. It checked as well that there's a development certificate for the local host, for the web server that it's set up to run the code. And it's also checking the ports as well, and then just provide this summary just to make sure that everything is correct and present. So then its first step is, well, it's a new project. It needs to go and run an npm install because of the dependencies. Once it's got past that, it then goes and sets up the other things that the project needs, like Azure AD, which I'm hoping. There we go. So it went straight through there. So I'm not sure what was wrong with the other sample. It did definitely work earlier, so I'm surprised that it didn't. But we've got a backup, and it's a great backup. So quickly, I don't know if you saw it, but I actually said that it was building the app manifest file, and in the background, it's uploading that to Microsoft Teams. So when it loads into Teams, Teams is just going, oh, I need to find a tab. Where's it running? Oh, it's running on the local host. So it's going to go out to that local host address and then pull the web server content into Teams. So it's just starting up this development server once it's got past that. So the debug session has happened, and then a browser window will appear. So that's taken a little while to do that npm install, but I'm hoping that I can get this shown and then quickly hand back over to you, Fabian. Just make sure oh, there we go. There's a window in the background, and just sign in. Of course, authenticator. I'll approve that. Okay, so that's been approved. So at this point, because the app has been already uploaded into Teams, we've got now the side loading window where we can add this in. And there we go, I can click add. So this adds it into Teams just for me. Doesn't add it into the organization store, so it's not available to anyone else in this tenant. That's a separate feature. What we should be able to see here is a personal tab, and click the button, and we can see that it's got a host of graph API permissions that we need to consent to. I'm going to accept that. And then we have the hub here. I can look at my files. I can create to-do tasks and calendar events. So that's created the app running in my tenant from the sample app. Some resources that's available for this, I'll provide all of the links after the session. We'll put them in the call notes as well. But just a reminder that the actual learning path is available. We just finished week 1. We've got 4 more weeks to go. Hopefully the demos will go a little bit more smoothly than what it did today. But next week, we're going to talk about building bots using the toolkit. And just remember that Toolkit is available. So, the Learn Path is available. Go to aka.ms/learn/Teams Toolkit to take a look at today's module and future modules as well. And over to you, Fabian. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Gary. Thank you, for presenting. Man, I love to see that those demos, and definitely good luck on the rest of the week. Rest of your the 5 weeks that you have going -1 for the 4 weeks. So thank you everyone for coming. We're at the top of the hour, so I'll be really, really brief. As Dan Wahlin mentioned before, next week Aisha Bass will be doing the part 2 where she'll dynamically create the Microsoft Teams meeting using Microsoft Graph. Garry will be back to talk about the Teams Toolkit Learn Path again, and we'll have David Rousset talking about debugging, remotely debugging your Microsoft Teams app from any device using Wahlin JS. The recording for this call will be available 24 hours on the YouTube channel, aka.ms community/videos. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe today. Follow us on Twitter as well at M365PMP for all updates on LinkedIn. The aka.ms community/li. The next call will be on February 28th at 0800 Pacific time. And we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you all for attending. Cheers and have a great day.